What's going on, you guys? Sports Runs on Diesel back at you here with another episode, and today we're going to be talking about Week 8 of the NFL season and all the eye candy and all the takeaways from a lot of marquee matchups. I'm not going to get into every single game, but let's get right into it, talking about the Patriots against the Bills, 24-21 as the Bills prevail late in the ball game. And to think that the Patriots lost because of a Cam Newton fumble is beyond me, because Cam Newton actually looked pretty good in this ball game. Pretty accurate throwing the football, whereas we're talking about a guy who's been struggling to be accurate throwing the football. You know, the last game he played against the 49ers, 15 pass attempts, 3 of those pass attempts went for interceptions, and it's been a real struggle for this Patriots team and this Patriots offense as they lose 4 straight games for the first time since 2000. But with that being said, the Buffalo Bills have been firing on all cylinders. They're playing well offensively. Josh Allen's been struggling a little bit as of late. He hasn't run the football as much as he would like to, and as this offense would like him to run. But with that being said, they're 6-2 to start the NFL season, and they're literally they have a negative point differential through the first 8 games of the regular season. They're the third team in NFL history to have a negative point differential and have a winning record. Like, to be 6-2 and have a negative point differential. The only other 2 teams to do that are the 91 Bears and the 1945 Detroit Lions. And both of those teams didn't win a playoff game. But I do believe, I'm optimistic that Buffalo will win the AFC East, will win this division, even though Miami is making this a tighter race than it needs to be. But Miami's been playing fantastic. We will get to them later in this episode here. And people are optimistic and are waiting for this New England Patriots team to go on a run, because we know the last 3, 4, 5 years, they start off slow and then they go on this gigantic run. But that was with Tom Brady at the helm. And, they actually had weapons on the offense. They really don't have many weapons on the offense, but we will see how that all plays out as the regular season continues forward into the second half. With that being said, moving on, Bengals, Titans. Bengals win 31-20. Bengals, this is the first time they beat a team with a winning record since Week 5 of the 2018 season. Joe Burrow has been undoubtedly, he is making a case for Rookie of the Year. He's averaging 41 pass attempts a game, and which leads the NFL in that category. But the Bengals are 11-1-1 when Giovanni Bernard has 15 or more rush attempts in a game. And they need to keep giving this guy the ball, because I don't know what it is with Giovanni Bernard. We know he's a dual threat running back. He can run the football. He can pass catch out of the backfield. He's been with that organization for a very long time. Stuck it out with them for a very long time. When Andy Dalton was there, Mercedes Lewis was the head coach. So there's been a lot of things going on there at Cincinnati, and they're trending in the right direction. They're trying to get better, and obviously it starts with the win against the Titans, a monumental win against the Titans. We know about Derrick Henry and what the Titans are all about offensively and defensively. But with that being said, the Bengals prevail in this ball game, win 31-20. Moving on from that, Raiders, Browns. The Raiders held the Browns to 6 points in this game as they went 16-6. And with that being said, this is the fewest that the Raiders have allowed in a football game since Week 15 of the 2012 season. And to think that this Raiders defense was, I understand. Baker Mayfield has been struggling as of late because now there's no Odell Beckham anymore. So it's been a struggling Baker Mayfield. And will this team get it together? Of course they'll get it back together and they'll start winning football games again. You still got Kareem Hunt. You still got Jarvis Landry. You got David Njoku. They still have a lot of weapons on this offense that can win them ball games. It's unfortunate you don't have your number one player in Odell Beckham, but they have to move forward and keep moving on. But a weird thing with the Browns this year is they've either scored in every single one of their games this year, they've either scored 30 or more points or 7 or fewer points. And I thought that was very consistently inconsistent of them, but that's how the offense has been this season. They either do really well or they do really bad. And unfortunately, last week it was really bad. And against a Las Vegas Raiders team that is very beatable. But let's keep moving on from this because there's a lot to talk about. We have Colts, Lions. The only reason why I highlighted the Colts is they put up a monster number, 41 points. The third time since 2016 that they've scored 40 or more points. The Lions, with this being said, the Lions once again lose at home, which has been the main story of the Detroit Lions the past couple of seasons. They are now 5-14 at home since 2018, since the beginning of the 2018 season, second worst in the NFL, second worst record in the NFL during that span. Also, the Lions only rushed for 29 rushing yards. We're talking about a team that has DeAndre Swift, who has been an up-and-coming running back in this NFL season. He has rushed for 100 yards at least 2 or 3 times this season, and you have Adrian Peterson as your backup. And to think that they only rushed for 29 yards in a game is beyond me. That's the fewest from them since Week 11 of the 2016 season. What else is there to talk about in that game? Philip Rivers looked good, but when they have, Hines looked great in this ball game, 2 catching touchdowns in this ball game. When they have their running backs healthy, this team can be very dangerous. That backfield can be very dangerous. And I'm just waiting for T.Y. Hilton to finally get the ball and start making some big time catches and start having some of these big games. He hasn't had a really good game since like week 1, week 2 of the NFL season. So a lot of Colts fans are very anxious to see when T.Y. Hilton is going to get back on track here. But the thing is the last few years he's been struggling with injuries. He's been on and off the field, and I think we're all just waiting for him to finally have a good, healthy season, and only time's going to tell how that all plays out. Moving on, Vikings, Packers. We're talking about the NFC North Division here, a very very highly contested matchup here, and the Vikings prevailed 28-22. Derek Cook, obviously, we talk about let Russ cook. Dalvin Cook was cooking this Packers defense. 163 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, 63 yards in the air, and also another touchdown. He's the first player in Vikings history with 200-plus scrimmage yards and 4 more touchdowns in a game. No other Vikings player has done that in their franchise history. And with that being said, we talk about Dalvin Cook on one side. We can't forget about talking about Devontae Adams on the other side for the Packers. He didn't really have a big yard game, 7 catches, 53 yards, but he did score 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdown catches in this ball game. He joins Greg Jennings as the only Green Bay players with 3 or more receiving touchdowns in a game against the Vikings since 1950. So, Devontae Adams is continuing to put up monster numbers, and he's not going to slow down anytime soon. But with that being said, let's keep moving on. Keep moving on because there's too much to talk about. I don't have enough time in the video to be going through every single ball game because the video would be way too long and you guys would fall asleep on me. Moving on, Rams, Dolphins. Dolphins with the major upset here, 28-17, but the Dolphins have been like this all season long. This defense is getting better and better. They forced 4 first-half turnovers by Jared Goff, 2 interceptions, 2 lost fumbles for Jared Goff. He's the 4th quarterback in Rams history to do that, to have 2+ interceptions, 2+ lost fumbles in a first half since 2000. He's the first quarterback to do it since then, but he's the 4th one. And it's this, Tua, obviously, there was the highly anticipated debut of Tua, and he looked pretty good in the game. Obviously, there's a lot of things to work out, and in terms of the communication between him and his receivers and the running game and the offensive line, there's a lot to work out there. But he's the first rookie since Russell Wilson in 2012 to beat the Rams. So, we will see how his career is off to a great start. Now 1-0, but obviously there's going to be struggles along the way. But this team is right in the hunt for winning the AFC East and possibly making the wild card round. So this team is right there, and I think Miami is just going to be doing nothing but trending upward as the season progresses, not just this year, but as the years progress along, because they are in good hands with Brian Flores and that offense. And I give credit to the defense. The defense just played out of their minds against that Rams offense, who's pretty good as of recently. But going to the Cowboys against the Eagles, obviously I knew the Eagles were going to win this ball game. Once again, and this is a stat that a lot of people don't know about, Ezekiel Elliott hasn't even rushed for 100 yards yet this season. And when he rushes for 100 yards, they are crazy. But we also have to remember, Dak Prescott is not even playing. He's going to be out for the rest of the season, and he could be out for a lot of next season, depending on how the healing process goes with that dislocated ankle. On the other side of it, Philadelphia is now 3-4-1 on the regular season. They lead the division, a very close division. I'm not even going to get into it. You guys know where I stand with this division. But talking about Travis Fulgham, the star, why he's becoming more and more of a superstar in this Phillies offense, in this Philadelphia Eagles offense. He now has 4 straight games of 70 or more receiving yards. The last player to do that, the great Terrell Owens in 2005. So Fulgham continues his hot streak, and Carson Wentz is trusting to put the ball in his hands when the game is on the line or when it matters most. And Fulgham keeps pulling through and keeps making big catches throughout ball games. Up next, Seahawks, 49ers. The Seahawks win 37-27. We know how this game went. Obviously, Garoppolo gets taken out. They put Mullins in. But with that being said, Russell Wilson tied Peyton Manning for the most wins by a quarterback in their first 9 seasons as an NFL quarterback, 92 wins. And on top of all of that, he also is in the same company as Peyton Manning and Dan Marino as the only players with 250 passing touchdowns in their first 9 seasons. Russell Wilson continues his hot streak at the beginning of the season, and he's not going to slow down as long as as long as people stay healthy, COVID-wise as well as injuries, and he just continues to keep making a case for being MVP. And some of you guys are still thinking, how has this guy not had a single MVP vote in his first 8 seasons is beyond me. But we will, obviously, everyone's making a case. People starting to make a case for Patrick Mahomes, who is now 21-1 on the regular season. And what I mean by that is 21 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's been undoubtedly the number. There's 1A and 1B, and it's been Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes. Who's going to win it? We'll see how the rest of the season plays out first before we get into that. And then obviously, last but not least, in the marquee matchups of the week, Steelers against the Ravens. Steelers prevailed 28-24 thanks to a Fitzpatrick breakup as time expired in this ball game. The Ravens have lost their first game with Lamar Jackson as a starter when they lead at halftime. They're up 17-7 at halftime. They're 23-0 when they lead at halftime. And Pittsburgh came back and prevailed. They forced 2 big-time fumbles for Lamar Jackson. But another thing that I was looking into was how good is this Ravens team? How good is this Ravens team when they play against teams that are above 500, including last year's playoffs? They are 0-3 when they play teams above 500. That includes their loss to the Titans in the AFC divisional round. And all 3 of those games are home games. This team is on the rise. They're trending upward like they always have been. People are waiting for that Chiefs-Ravens. We saw the matchup earlier this season, and the Chiefs undoubtedly beat them. But we're waiting for when both teams are hot, when both quarterbacks are hot, who is going to win a shootout in this game? And, I mean, obviously I would pick the Chiefs, but Patrick Mahomes and company, the Chiefs. But the Ravens need one more guy because right now their number one target is Mark Andrews. I'm not saying Marquise Brown can't be that next guy, but, you know, they got Willie Snead. They got all sorts of good targets, good options in the wide receiving core. Their running backs are pretty good. Dobbins had a good game, but they're missing one dynamic number one wide receiver, a big-time playmaker that can – and on top of that, Lamar Jackson hasn't been accurate throwing this football either. He's been struggling to throw the football. He's second – I mean, he's 29th in the league in terms of completion percentage this season. So if he can become more accurate throwing this football, you know, this team has got – now the run game opens up, play action opens up, and now you can hit Marquise Brown and these guys deep downfield. But they need that one more guy. And their offense is becoming a little bit predictable because you know the threat of Lamar Jackson running this football, but when you pressure him enough, like you saw with Pittsburgh, they get to him, they force fumbles, they create turnovers, and that's how Pittsburgh won this football game. But thank you guys so much for your time. Obviously, there's more to talk about. We got a lot of marquee matchups here in Week 9 of the NFL season as the second half of the season starts. Obviously, there's more NBA news coming up as the Players Association and the NBA front office is talking about a 72-game season that starts December 22nd, which only gives NBA players 2.5 months of rest off of the NBA, especially like the Lakers and the Miami Heat. They only get 2.5 months of rest. Will we see LeBron James at the beginning of the NBA season? A lot of people are saying no. But we will find out as the NBA season comes along, and the season could start December 22nd. But I will stay tuned for that video coming up. Thank you guys so much for your time. If you haven't yet already, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on YouTube, on Facebook, please like my page. Please subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for your time. I will see you guys all in the next one. Deuces.